The galaxy laughed at human myths until Earth's fleet arrived without warning. HFY Sci-fi Story, the Zorath Trade Hub, was alive with color and sound. Ships of every shape and size drifted through the vast docking rings, their engines humming in a chorus that only the galaxy could produce. Traders from dozens of worlds shouted over the crowd, advertising their wares. Exotic spices from the rim planets, rare metals harvested from collapsed stars, and strange artifacts from forgotten civilizations filled the stalls. Captain Valon of the Zorath Council lounged at a table near the center of the hub, his scales glinting under the station's artificial lights. A group of young alien merchants gathered around him, eager for his stories. Valon was a seasoned diplomat, known for his sharp tongue and even sharper pride. Today he was talking about humans. They claim to have fleets that can cross light years faster than any known warp drive, Valon said, his eyes gleaming with amusement. And you know what? They are nothing but myths. Legends told by backwater worlds trying to sound important. The crowd laughed. Hollow projections flickered to life around the table, showing Earth as a small blue planet barely noticeable in its solar system. Next to it, holograms of massive alien fleets spread across sectors shimmered. See this? Valon tapped a holographic fleet twice the size of the Earth system. This is power. And that little rock you call Earth? Nothing. They couldn't even hold one starport against a common pirate gang. A few of the younger traders snickered nervously, not wanting to challenge Valon, but still intrigued. One of them whispered to another, "I heard Earth has ships that can shoot through asteroid belts without losing a single fighter." The other shrugged. Stories? Just stories, but not everyone was laughing. Lyra, a young xenologist, leaned against a nearby railing, her bright eyes watching Valon carefully. She had spent her life studying human myths, quietly fascinated by the tales that seemed impossible. Every story she had read painted humans as daring, clever, and sometimes reckless, but always capable of amazing feats. She wondered, what if some of it was true? Her thoughts were interrupted by a strange hum in the station's signal arrays. Traders paused, glancing up as their personal devices lit up with alerts. The hum grew into a rhythmic pulse, and a sudden surge of energy flared across the sector's sensor grids. Valon noticed it too, his amusement fading. "What is that?" he demanded. The young merchants looked around nervously. Lyra felt her heart race. This wasn't like the usual traffic. The signal was structured, moving with purpose. It was massive, too coordinated to be a natural phenomenon. "It's coming from the Sol system," said a trader with trembling claws, pointing at a distant hologram of the sector. "Ships, moving at speeds we've never recorded." Valon leaned closer, his pride twisting into unease. Impossible. That must be some kind of trick. But Lyra's intuition screamed differently. She had studied the myths long enough to recognize patterns. Humans were clever, patient, and persistent. They did things differently, often hiding their true strength until the perfect moment. And this could very well be that moment. Hours passed as the hum intensified. Traders scattered, leaving the hub with uneasy glances. Valon ordered his security droids to scan the sector, but nothing could stop the signal from growing. The lights in the station flickered, and a strange vibration shook the docking rings. Then it appeared. A fleet of ships, unlike anything the galaxy had seen, entered the Zorath sector. They moved in perfect formation, sleek and purposeful. Their surfaces reflected light like polished steel, but there was something familiar about them. Something wild, frontier-like. Modular carriers with angular hulls, smaller fighters darting between them like hawks, solar sails stretched wide, catching energy from the distant star. The aliens gasped. Traders stopped in their tracks. Even Valon's confident posture faltered. They can't be real, Valon muttered under his breath. Lyra's eyes widened. It's them. The humans, one of the smaller ships, detached from the main formation and approached the hub. A calm, measured signal appeared on the universal comm channel. The voice that came through was rough and deep, with an unmistakable tone of frontier authority. "This is Captain Reinhardt of the Earth Fleet. We come with respect, and with warning. Any hostile action against us will be met with defense. Clear the trade lanes and let peace reign, or face the consequences." Silence fell over the hub. Traders whispered to each other, uncertain whether to run or stay. Valon's pride refused to allow him to retreat. "Threats from a backwater planet?" he hissed. "I will not—" But before he could finish, Lyra interrupted. "Captain Hart isn't bluffing," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. Look at their formation. Look at their maneuvering. Humans are not as weak as everyone believes. Valen waved her off. Child, don't speak unless you understand the stakes. But the stakes were already clear. Smaller alien patrol ships approached, ready to challenge the fleet. They fired their weapons, but the humans were faster, smarter. Fighters weaved through asteroid debris, dodging beams that would have shredded any normal vessel. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship anticipating the other's actions. The trade hub shook as a warning volley from the human ships struck nearby. No one was hurt, but the impact was enough to show the sheer power the humans commanded. Merchants and traders scrambled for safety, some bowing in awe, others fleeing in fear. Valen's claws clenched around the edge of his table. He had always prided himself on understanding power in the galaxy, but this was something different. This was not brute force. This was intelligence, courage, and strategy all combined. Lyra could barely contain her excitement. She had long believed in the human myths, but seeing them manifest like this, seeing humans arrive with purpose and strength, was more than she had ever imagined. She realized that the stories were not exaggerations. They were warnings, waiting for the galaxy to finally pay attention. A human scout ship approached the station. It hovered just outside docking range, rotating slowly as if examining everything around it. A voice echoed over the calm but commanding. We do not seek conflict. Trade and diplomacy are welcome. Violence is unnecessary. But make no mistake, if provoked, we will respond decisively. The words carried weight, not because of threats, but because of certainty. Every alien present could feel the power behind them. The galaxy had never encountered humans like this before. Valen finally straightened, his pride giving way to a grudging respect and fear. He had spent his life judging humans as myths, imagining them as weak, unimportant creatures. Now he realized just how wrong he had been. Lyra stepped closer, whispering to herself, "The legends, they're real." Outside the hub, the human fleet formed a protective circle, its ships ready to defend against any aggression. They didn't fire unless necessary. They didn't boast or threaten beyond what was needed. Their presence alone was enough to change the balance of power in the sector. The hub remained tense, every alien aware that history was unfolding before them. The galaxy had laughed at human myths for centuries, dismissing stories of bravery, cunning, and frontier spirit. But now, with the Earth fleet arriving without warning, the galaxy was learning a hard truth. Humans were not just stories. They were real, and they were capable of far more than anyone had ever imagined. As the sun of the Zorath system cast its golden light across the trade hub, Lyra knew one thing with certainty. This was only the beginning. The humans had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Zorath system had never seen anything like it. From orbit, the Earth fleet stretched across the stars, a formation so precise it looked like a living organism. Their ships glimmered under the light of the distant sun, reflecting steel and solar sails that caught the starlight like giant wings. The aliens below watched in disbelief, some frozen in awe, others trembling at the sight. Captain Valen paced along the bridge of the Zorath Trade Hub's command center. His claws tapped the console nervously as he monitored the fleet. Every move they made was flawless. Smaller patrol ships attempted to approach, but they were cut off instantly by swift human fighters. The humans did not fire recklessly. They simply blocked any interference with calm precision. They are organized, Valen muttered. He refused to admit fear aloud, but his voice betrayed it. I have never seen anything like this. Their coordination, it's perfect. Nearby, Lyra stood quietly, her eyes shining. She had studied humans for years, and now she understood why the legends described them as fearless and clever. The Earth fleet moved not just with technology, but with strategy. Each ship anticipated the next, and every maneuver seemed to follow some unspoken law of the frontier. Observe, plan, and act boldly. A scout vessel detached from the main fleet and hovered in orbit near the station. Its sleek hull shimmered, and a holographic signal projected above it. A human face appeared, rugged, sun-tanned, with a hat slightly tilted like a gunslinger from old frontier stories. It was Captain Reinhardt, speaking directly to the gathered aliens. "We come in peace," Hart said, his voice steady and calm yet commanding. "Trade and diplomacy are welcome. Any attack on our fleet will be met with defensive action. Consider this your only warning." The words were simple, but they carried authority. Every alien could feel it, like a ripple in the air. It was not a threat. It was a promise. Valen's stomach tightened. He was a seasoned diplomat, used to negotiating threats and power plays. But this This was different. He had faced warlords and rogue fleets before, and none of them moved with this level of discipline. These humans were not just strong, they were clever, fearless, and unpredictable. In the hub, traders whispered among themselves. Some began transmitting their goods to safer systems, fearful of being caught in the middle of whatever was about to happen. Others stood frozen, too curious to move, their eyes locked on the human ships. "They are here," Lyra murmured to herself, excitement rising in her chest. "The humans are here." The first test of human strategy came quickly. A small squad of Zarathian patrol fighters tried to block one of the Earth fleet's entry points to the trade lanes. The humans didn't attack at first. They simply watched, their ships moving in perfect formation. The alien pilots expected resistance, but instead, the humans executed a maneuver no one had predicted. One by one, the alien ships were outmaneuvered. The humans used the debris fields of nearby asteroids to force the patrol ships into positions where they could not fire safely. The human fighters darted between the asteroids, moving faster than the aliens thought possible, and then regrouped into the larger formation. Not a single human ship was damaged. Valon felt his confidence crack. "Possible," he whispered. He had trained for decades to anticipate alien tactics, but humans did not act like any species he had known. Their movements were bold, unexpected, yet perfectly calculated. Lyra's heart raced as she observed. She had read every story, every legend, and now she was witnessing it firsthand. Humans were not just capable, they were brilliant. The myths had underestimated nothing. They had been warnings, carefully crafted to prepare the galaxy for this day. The humans didn't stop with defensive maneuvers. They began securing key points around the system, docking bays, trade lanes, and communication arrays, but they did it without unnecessary aggression. If an alien ship approached, the humans intercepted it carefully, blocking its path and forcing it to retreat. No lives were lost, no unnecessary destruction occurred. Yet the message was clear. Humans controlled the system now. On the bridge of the trade hub, Valon struggled to maintain his composure. He turned to Lyra. "What do you make of this?" he demanded. "They are different," Lyra said softly. "They are exactly what the legends described. Brave, clever, and strategic. They don't just fight, they think." Valon narrowed his eyes. "And they come from Earth?" "Yes," she replied. "From the planet you mocked." Valon clenched his claws into fists. I should have known better. The humans, they've prepared for this. They've studied us, our fleets, our tactics. They know our weaknesses before we even act. Outside the hub, a human transport ship approached one of the main docking ports. It was massive, yet its design was simple and functional. Crew members moved quickly along the decks, securing the area. Unlike alien fleets, humans didn't rely on overwhelming numbers. They relied on clever design, teamwork, and bold execution. A holographic signal activated above the transport, and Captain Hart spoke again. "We seek no conflict. We value trade and cooperation. Any who assist us willingly will be treated as allies. Any who resist will face our defense." The aliens understood immediately. This was not an idle statement. The humans were giving the galaxy a choice: cooperate or step aside, and their calm confidence made it clear that this was not negotiable. Lyra stepped closer to the observation window, unable to tear her eyes away from the display of human ships. She noticed details the others had missed, the slight tilts of the smaller fighters, the way each ship adjusted to the slightest change in position, and the disciplined rotations of the larger vessels. Every action was calculated, but it looked effortless, almost casual. "They are like a living herd," she whispered. "Every part knows its role, every part moves perfectly with the others." Valen's jaw tightened. "And yet they are human," he said, "from a backwater planet we all ignored. And now they have arrived, to remind us that we judged them too quickly." Suddenly, a minor disturbance in the docking lanes caught everyone's attention. A rogue smuggler tried to escape the area, hoping to avoid the humans entirely. Human fighters responded instantly, intercepting the ship with precision. They didn't destroy it, they simply blocked its path, forcing it to return safely to the hub under supervision. It was a simple action, but it sent a clear message. Humans could control the battlefield without unnecessary violence. Strength, intelligence, and strategy were all on display, and the galaxy had no choice but to take notice. Valon's mind raced. He had always relied on intimidation and fear to maintain order in the trade hub. But with the humans here, those tools no longer worked. Every attempt to challenge the fleet had failed. Not because of brute force, but because humans acted with a confidence and cleverness that could not be matched. For Lyra, the moment was exhilarating. Every story she had ever read came alive in front of her. The humans she had admired in books, the heroes of myth and legend, were real, and they had arrived exactly as foretold. As night fell on the Zorath system, the human fleet remained vigilant. Ships rotated positions, scanning the sector, while smaller crafts patrolled the trade lanes. Aliens who had once mocked humans now whispered in awe, unsure whether to flee or submit. Captain Hart addressed the Galaxy one final time from the fleet's main vessel. "We do not seek to conquer," he said. "We seek respect, cooperation, and peace. But know this, humans are patient, clever, and persistent. Do not mistake our patience for weakness." The message was clear. The Galaxy had ignored human myths for centuries. It had mocked tales of bravery, cunning, and frontier spirit. But now, with the Earth fleet standing in orbit, the Galaxy had learned a hard truth. Humans were not just legends. They were real, capable, and unstoppable when united. Valen slumped into his command chair, exhausted, defeated in a way he had never experienced. The young xenologist Lyra stood beside him, her eyes wide with awe and anticipation. She knew this was only the beginning. The humans had arrived without warning, and the Galaxy would never be the same again. From orbit, the Earth fleet glimmered under the distant sun, silent but commanding. Every alien watching knew the legends were no longer stories. Humans were here, and they were ready. The asteroid station floated silently in the shadow of Zorath's twin moons. It was neutral territory, a place where traders, smugglers, and diplomats met when tempers ran high. Now, it was the center of the Galaxy's attention. The Earth fleet hovered above, a silent wall of steel and solar sails, while alien leaders gathered inside, uneasy but curious. Captain Reinhardt's ship, the Solar Mustang, docked at the station with precision. Its landing bay hissed as airlocks sealed, and the hum of its engines faded. Hart strode down the ramp, boots clanging against the metal floor, hat tilted in the usual frontier fashion. His crew followed quietly, weapons holstered but ready, eyes scanning for any sign of trouble. The alien council awaited them, Valen pale with tension, and other representatives from several powerful systems. Their skin and scales shimmered under the station lights, showing every shade and pattern unique to their species. They had expected a demonstration of force, perhaps a threat, or even an attack, but Hart offered none of it. "Welcome," Hart said, his voice firm but calm. "We are here to speak. No one has to fight today. But listen carefully. Earth is not a planet to underestimate." Valen stepped forward, trying to mask his unease with authority. "Captain Hart, your fleet's sudden arrival has startled the Galaxy. Some might say it is aggressive, others daring. What is your purpose?" Hart's eyes met his evenly. "Our purpose is simple. We value trade, peace, and cooperation. But we also value respect. The Galaxy has laughed at our myths for too long. That ends now." A murmur spread through the chamber. Some aliens shifted uneasily in their seats. Humans, they realized, did not bluff. They did not threaten without reason. And yet, there was power behind their words. A young representative of the Vornok species, large, armored, and horned, leaned forward. "And if we refuse your demands?" he asked, voice grating like steel on stone. Hart tilted his hat slightly, as if considering the question for a moment. Then he smiled, not cruelly, but with a quiet confidence that unsettled the council. "We don't want war," he said, "but know this. We have the patience to wait, the intelligence to plan, and the courage to act when necessary. Test us, and you will see the truth of human capability." Valen's claws tapped against the console nervously. He had spent decades negotiating with power-hungry leaders, but humans were not power-hungry. They were controlled, precise, and clever in ways that were difficult to read. Hart's frontier-like calm made him seem unpredictable, like a gunslinger who could draw faster than anyone else. Lyra stepped forward, unable to contain her excitement. "They're exactly like the stories," she whispered to herself. "Brave, clever, and fearless." One of Hart's officers, a young woman with a sharp gaze and steady hands, projected a holographic map of the Zorath system. "We have studied the patterns of trade and conflict here for decades," she explained. "We know the weaknesses, the choke points, and the areas most vulnerable to disruption. We are not here to attack. We are here to stabilize and protect. Cooperation benefits everyone." The Vornak representative snorted. "We've faced pirates, raiders, and rival fleets. Why should we believe your humans are different?" Hart tipped his hat, his smile widening slightly. Because we've never needed to be predictable. We study. We anticipate. And we act when it matters most. The galaxy may have thought Earth a backwater, but that was only because they ignored preparation. We prepare. We endure. And when we arrive, well, you can see for yourselves. He gestured toward the observation window, where the Earth fleet hovered silently above the asteroid station. Smaller human ships patrolled the trade lanes, blocking escape routes and protecting neutral traffic. Every movement was calculated, every action deliberate. No one could challenge them without consequences. Valen swallowed, suddenly aware of his own pride and misjudgment. "You have studied us?" he asked cautiously. Hart nodded. "We have, not to conquer, not to humiliate, but to understand. Knowledge is the most valuable weapon in the galaxy." Lyra felt a shiver of awe. Humans didn't rely on overwhelming numbers or sheer firepower. They relied on observation, intelligence, and bold execution. The old myths had captured this, but seeing it live was far more powerful than she could have imagined. The council murmured among themselves. Some were cautious, others suspicious, and a few were impressed. Valen's mind raced, realizing the humans' arrival had shifted the balance of power. The galaxy could no longer underestimate Earth. Suddenly, alarms blared from the station's perimeter. A small squad of rogue smugglers had tried to breach the station, hoping to escape detection. Human fighters responded immediately. They didn't destroy the ships. They blocked their escape, forcing the smugglers to return under supervision. The message was unmistakable. Humans controlled this space, but they preferred order to chaos. The aliens' whispers grew louder. They had expected aggression or chaos, but this was something else. Humans acted with precision, patience, and confidence. It was as if every move had been planned decades ago, and now the moment had come to execute it. Valen realized the truth, and it frightened him. "They are not what we imagined," he said quietly. "They are stronger than anyone suspected." Hart's eyes scanned the room, catching Valen's gaze. "We do not seek to destroy or conquer," he said softly. "Respect and peace. But respect is earned, not assumed. Your species must decide whether to honor that or face consequences." The council remained tense. They were powerful, experienced, and used to controlling trade, fleets, and diplomacy. Yet these humans, these so-called backwater legends, had arrived with authority, strategy, and calm confidence. It was a challenge unlike any they had faced. Lyra could not contain her admiration. She stepped closer to the window, watching the humans patrol the trade lanes. Every fighter moved with perfect coordination, as if the ships themselves had minds of their own. She realized the old stories were not exaggerations. They were warnings, meant to prepare the galaxy for humans' arrival. Hours passed, negotiations continued, careful and deliberate. Hart spoke plainly, clearly, and without unnecessary flourish. He offered trade agreements, defense treaties, and protection for neutral systems. Every word reinforced the truth. Humans were organized, intelligent, and capable of defending themselves with or without violence. Valen's mind raced. He had spent his life underestimating Earth, mocking human myths, believing them weak and primitive. Now, every doubt had vanished. Humans were not only real, they were clever, strategic, and fearless. The frontier legends had underestimated nothing. As the meeting drew to a close, Hart tipped his hat, signaling the end of the session. "We have spoken," he said. "The choice is yours. Respect humans and cooperate, or resist and experience our response. We have no desire for conflict, but we will act decisively when necessary." A silence filled the chamber. The council knew the weight of his words. They had seen the fleet. They had witnessed the humans' discipline and coordination, and they had felt the quiet authority of a captain who combined frontier boldness with calculated intelligence. Valen finally stood, voice steady but humbled. "Very well, Captain Hart," he said. "We will consider your terms." Hart nodded, satisfied. "Good. We will patrol the sector, maintain order, and await your reply. The galaxy will know that humans do not bluff." As Hart and his crew returned to the Solar Mustang, Lyra felt a surge of excitement. The legends she had studied were real, and now she understood the full scope of human capability. Humans were not just strong, they were clever, patient, and fearless in ways no one had anticipated. The council would meet again, of course. Decisions would be made, alliances tested, and the galaxy would react. But one thing was certain. Humans had arrived, and the galaxy had no choice but to pay attention. From orbit, the Earth fleet glimmered under the light of the twin moons. Every ship moved with precision, each fighter a perfect part of the larger whole. The message was clear. Humans had arrived not to conquer, but to be respected. And the frontier spirit that had carried them from Earth to the stars would ensure that no one ever underestimated them again. Lyra whispered to herself, eyes wide. The legends. They're just beginning. And, somewhere in the solar Mustang, Hart adjusted his hat, leaning against the railing. He smiled faintly, knowing the galaxy would learn in time that humans were patient, clever, and ready for whatever challenge came next. The frontier had reached the stars, and humanity was here to stay. The Zorath system glimmered under the light of a distant sun, but the calm was only an illusion. Orbiting the richest trade lanes and asteroid belts, fleets of alien warships had gathered. Rival factions had heard of Earth's sudden arrival and refused to accept it quietly. They underestimated humans, as they always had, until now. From orbit, Captain Reinhardt watched the approaching fleets. The solar Mustang glided smoothly, surrounded by smaller fighters that patrolled like hawks over a prairie. Every ship was in perfect formation, moving with silent precision. Hart's jaw was firm, eyes scanning the approaching threat. He adjusted his hat and spoke to his crew. "All right," he said calmly. "They think they can intimidate us. Let's remind them that humans don't just bluff." His crew nodded, ready but relaxed. The tension in the air was sharp, but the humans had trained for this kind of encounter. They were confident, not cocky. Confidence, Hart knew, was what made humans unpredictable and effective in ways no one else could match. Below, on the neutral asteroid station, the alien council watched nervously. Valon leaned against a console, eyes narrowed. "They can't hold against all of them," he muttered. "There are too many ships." Lyra shook her head, excitement replacing fear.
"They're not just holding," she said.
"They're controlling the battlefield. Watch carefully." As the alien fleets advanced, the Earth fleet did not attack recklessly. Instead, it split strategically. Smaller human fighters darted between asteroids, leading alien ships into positions where they would block each other. The larger human frigates adjusted positions like pieces on a chessboard, cutting off escape routes without firing a single shot. One alien commander growled in frustration. "They trap us without even engaging." "How is this possible?" Hart smiled faintly as he gave a simple order. "Hold your positions. Let them move." The humans' plan was simple but brilliant. They used the terrain of the asteroid belts, the gravitational pulls of nearby moons, and the positioning of trade stations to create natural choke points. Any alien fleet that advanced without caution risked being trapped, outmaneuvered, and forced to retreat without a fight. Valon's claws clenched. He had underestimated human ingenuity. Not only were they brave, but they were clever beyond anything he had imagined. The galaxy's laughter at human myths had been premature. Suddenly, an alien squadron attempted a flanking maneuver, hoping to bypass the humans' formations. Hart anticipated it instantly. He gestured to a fighter squadron, and the smaller human ships streaked toward the flank like lightning. Within moments, the alien ships were surrounded. They fired, but the human fighters dodged with impossible speed. Weaving through debris and gravity wells, the aliens' attack failed, and they were forced back, humiliated but unharmed. From the observation deck of the asteroid station, Lyra gasped. "They're like a living herd," she whispered. "Every ship knows exactly where to be, every move perfectly coordinated." "The stories, they're true." Valon did not respond. He was pale, realizing the full scope of the situation. The humans were not just strong. They were smart, patient, and unpredictable. Their tactics combined intelligence, courage, and a kind of frontier daring that no alien fleet had ever faced. Hart gave another order, calm as ever. "Prepare the lassos." From the decks of the frigates, glowing energy cables, plasma lassos, extended outward. They were human inventions, simple in appearance but deadly in function. Smaller alien ships that tried to escape were caught in the lassos, spun gently but firmly around the hulls, immobilized without harm. The aliens struggled, trying to fire, but the lassos were precise, perfectly timed, and unbreakable. "Brilliant," Lyra whispered, her eyes wide. "They're using speed, terrain, and technology together, like the myths said." Valon's pride broke completely. He had mocked humans for centuries, dismissed their stories as exaggerations, and now he realized he had been entirely wrong. The humans were everything the legends promised, and more. The alien commanders exchanged anxious glances. Their fleets had superior numbers and firepower, but they could not counter human coordination. Every attack they launched was met with a calculated defense, and every attempt at aggression ended with the humans gaining control of the field without unnecessary destruction. Hart leaned over the console, watching the star lanes carefully. "They'll test us more," he said quietly. "Let them. We're ready." And test them they did. Another squadron of alien ships attempted a direct assault on the asteroid station itself, hoping to disrupt the negotiations and intimidate both the Council and the human fleet. The humans responded immediately, not with violence, but with clever traps. Energy nets, gravity pulses, and coordinated fighter movements forced the alien ships to retreat. No lives were lost, but the demonstration was clear. Humans controlled the system. Valen's voice shook as he addressed the Council. "We underestimated them entirely. They are not myths. They are real." Lyra could barely contain her excitement. "The legends, they weren't lies," she said softly. "They were warnings. And now the galaxy sees the truth." The standoff lasted for hours, each side testing the other carefully. The humans never fired unless necessary. Every action was calculated, precise, and bold. By the time the alien fleets finally retreated to regroup, it was clear Earth's fleet had proven its power and intelligence without unnecessary bloodshed. Hart stood on the observation deck of the Solar Mustang, looking out at the departing alien fleets. He tipped his hat slightly, a small gesture of frontier pride. "They'll remember this day," he said to his crew. "They laughed at the myths, now they'll respect them." The Alien Council remained in stunned silence. They had been present for centuries of galactic power struggles, but they had never seen such disciplined courage, clever strategy, and fearless execution combined in one force. Valon finally stepped forward, voice measured but respectful. "Captain Hart, you have shown us something we did not believe possible. Humans are not only clever, but patient, brave, and unpredictable. The galaxy will never underestimate you again." Hart nodded. "We did not come to dominate. We came to be respected. Cooperation is always better than conflict, but we will not be ignored or mocked. The frontier spirit of Earth, our patience, our courage, and our cunning has reached the stars. Let that be remembered." Lyra smiled, feeling a sense of awe she had never experienced before. She had read every legend, every story, but seeing it come alive, watching humans execute these incredible maneuvers, and seeing the galaxy acknowledge their power, it was more than she had imagined. Outside the asteroid station, the Earth fleet held its positions. The smaller fighters patrolled with hawk-like vigilance, while the larger frigates glimmered in the sunlight. They had proven themselves not by raw force alone, but by intelligence, strategy, and a kind of daring that the galaxy had never anticipated. The alien fleets retreated slowly, their pride wounded, but their respect earned. Word would spread quickly. The humans of Earth were real, capable, and unstoppable when united. The myths were not exaggerations. They were warnings. And now the galaxy had finally learned the truth. Hart leaned against the railing of the Solar Mustang, tipping his hat one last time to the departing alien commanders. "They laughed," he murmured, "and now they'll remember." Lyra looked out at the fleet, her heart full. She realized that this was just the beginning. Humans had arrived in the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as legends proven true. And the frontier spirit, the courage, cleverness, and daring of Earth would carry them farther than anyone could imagine. As the twin moons of Zorath rose over the asteroid station, the galaxy had no choice but to acknowledge the humans. The legends were real, the myths were true, and the frontier of humanity had only just begun.